What is up? Let's see if our stream is working today. It sure seems like it is. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and get my drill station set up here. Oh, I remembered I did this wrong the last time. I was supposed to do it. Cool. So I think that will work. Whoa. Haven't done some proper training with the putter for a few days, so it'd be good to get some reps in, get back in the lab a little bit. Nice, decent start. Nice try. Thanks. Oh, I appreciate you taking the time to drop a comment in there. Strong 7 for 7 to start here, which is good. Try to really lock in. Finish out the set on a clean slate. It's always the goal. Alright, one more. There we go, that's a clean 10 for 10. What's up, Trippin', Ganja King, and Coolie Bob? What's up, Coolie Bob? That was a good 10 for 10, clean slate to start. Stroke's starting to warm up a little bit. Sorry I don't have the good audio quality tonight. My microphones were left. Coolie Bob, yeah, if you want to subscribe, that's great. Got a lot more golf and kind of just positivity, life advice content coming. There we go. Yeah, the clubs, the main bag is in the shop. So all we've got is the putter. Hello, KDMR. What's going on? And I mistakenly left my extra chargers and microphones that I've been using for content in the bag. Alright, keeping up a good clean streak. I think that's 14 in a row to start. But hopefully you can still hear me okay. Nothing. Cool. I appreciate you guys checking out the stream. Feel free to subscribe if you want. I'm gonna keep trying to do these live streams. I should do them more, I think. Alright, another good one there. Alright, it's good to feel a little bit of pressure. You know, don't want to miss this late into a clean slate, but just, you know, every extra putt feels like it has that much more pressure on it. Oh baby, I think that's 17 in a row. It's 18 in a row. Oh, thanks for subscribing, dude. Am I good at golf? I'm decent. That's what I would say. I know there's a lot of people that would think I'm really good, but there's just a level of golf I know exists that is far beyond what I could ever do. But I am close to a 0 handicap, / I've been a plus handicap for a long time. A kind of +1, +1.5 range. Alright, this is for 20 in a row to start the stream. It's just good setup, good routine. There we go. 20 in a row. Let's make it 30. Let's go for 30 in a row. You know how you get there though? You gotta get to 21. We did 20. Just do one good rep at a time. And try not to break my ankles on these golf balls. Boom, there we go. Just stick to the routine. Same routine. Consistency. It's 21. We should keep track. I should keep track of what my longest streak is. Have I been to Topgolf? I have been to Topgolf. I've been to probably 8 or 9 different cities. The Topgolf across the country. It's cool. It's a nice. I tell people it's like bowling. It's like a very nice social. You know, you can go have a drink and some tasty chicken wings with your friends, but it's not for serious golf, in my opinion. +4 the other day, first time ever playing. That's awesome, man. Or lady. C-Wag, what's going on? +4 in your first time, that's great. Alright, this is for 22 in a row. There we go. .22 in a row, not just to win in the cup, but that we've successfully navigated this narrow setting on our Pels tutor here. This is our training aid that we use. There we go. Really feeling a nice neutral club face in the stroke tonight. That's nice. Just gonna try to build on the routine, right? Just build the reps. There we go. Yeah, I should get a little board or something, you know, and just keep like the max streak, the longest streak that we've had. That's 25 in a row to start the stream. Really nice consistency. I've never understood those putting mat things. Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore's great. How does Bro read chat? Bro has multiple screens. The putting mat, Mr. Raggers, is great because I have this training aid set up back here. So I'm working on training my stroke, and specifically for short putts, putts inside of 8 feet. That's, man, like, do a kickflip. Wish I could do that. So I'm working on face control and start line with this drill station back here that has some guidance on the mat for the stroke. And then we're just working on posture and routine, keeping that all the same. Which for me is just set it up square, kind of step into the putter, grip it, and I do hover the putter. Boom. Oh, bummer. Alright, so 27 was the number. We'll just keep going from there. Start back at 1. Try to make one more good stroke. And then one more after that. What does the elevation do? Could you not get the same results on a flat putting green? Oh yeah, for sure. This is just so I think there's like an actual cup that gives it some gravity, some elevation to get the ball to roll back to you. But yeah, you don't need an actual cup to putt into. You could do this on a carpet or a floor just with the drill station set up, and as long as you're rolling the ball along your intended start line, that's the skill that you're trying to build. Oh, another miss. Yeah, this part back here is really just, positive reinforcement. Maybe you set it up so that it goes in the hole when you make a good putt. But the magic happens back here with your start line. This is the same idea as if you've seen, on a green, you put the tees in just to make a little gate. Yeah, flat putting green could work great. I think, like I said, this is all just kind of for making it feel nice. The goal and what I'm working on training is, can I, wherever I set the face to, wherever I, aim my target, can I repeatedly, over and over again at a pretty high rate of success, can I start the ball on that intended line? And what I like about this Pels tutor setup is it's pretty scalable, right? You can, if you're just getting started, you can move these back, give you a more reasonable window for success, right? And then as you become more proficient, you make your margin of error, your window for success smaller as your skill and ability improves. Just feeling a little bit of over rotation of the face through impact, which I think is why we've, all of our misses tonight have been on that left ball bearing. So just trying to over exaggerate the opposite, right? So if I'm feeling like I'm getting the putter turning over a little too much through impact and missing on the left, then what I'll try to feel like I'm really kind of holding that face off, almost like I was going to hit a small fade through impact. Any tips for keeping a straight backswing on the putting? I seem to always hit a figure of 8. It's rather odd no matter the grip or stance. Can't seem to fix it. Yeah, so this drill again, this station that I have set up, my best advice for working on your stroke, which is what you're describing here, Raggers, right, is kind of like an in to out or a loopy kind of motion, right? This mat, this well stroke, has a guide, right, and it has an arc to it. And what you do, the same way you would work on your full swing, is just try to go at 25% speed. And what does it feel like to keep the putter, right, from where I'm looking, you want the putter to trace over that arc, right, and on the way through. You want your putter kind of in slow motion. What does it feel like to keep it in this arc? These guys, tag Wellstroke in the comments. They should start sponsoring me. This is another one that I think is great. This is like a physical barrier, right? And you set these up where you would make the stroke. Right? So you have a physical reminder of where the putter needs to go in order for your stroke to not have that loop in it. So I think my best advice would be go in slow motion and just, what is it, if I take it back all through the stroke, the backstroke, on that arc, what does that feel like? How does that feel different from my usual stroke? And then, consequently, what do I have to do on the way down, so in transition, to keep that putter? If I'm gonna get, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to kind of get underneath it either. What does it feel like to kind of have a smooth transition from the backstroke to the four-stroke through impact? So, like with a lot of technical, working on your swing, trying to change how your body moves, you can't do it at full speed really very effectively. You have to do it, really slow, deliberate, just trying to get into those positions. So that's maybe 30% speed, and just work on keeping that putter. You could also, if you don't have a budget for getting things like this, you can build a station with tees, or set up some other golf balls, right? That something for your a physical kind of barrier for your putter to go through. If you bring it really far on the inside, if common kind of loop is kind of like inside, and then you reroute it back out. Set up another a barrier, some sort of station like this, even just with some spare golf balls. And if you do that kind of big inside takeaway, you're gonna hit that ball back there. And you can adjust this for whatever your miss is. Friend has a rather open club face in his backswing, but is really good at putting. My personal opinion, I'm not an expert on putting by any means, is I try to feel like, and same in my full swing, like I keep the club face very square to the path on which I'm swinging it. So I don't like to feel like the putter is opening relative to the path, and then having to time the closing back down. That said, I think the best putting stroke is one that is consistent and repeatable and gets the ball in the hole. So if your friend has an unconventional type of stroke, or doing something maybe unorthodox, but they are consistently making putts and outperforming, in strokes gained on the green, who am I to say? I'm definitely not somebody who would, tell you to change that if that's the case. Yo, listen up. So I could tell on the way back there, it just got a little bit outside on us, and then I tried to hold it, but the face was, again, maybe square to the path, but the path was too far left to target, and we just missed that. There was a failed rep on the left side. Rattled that one in. What's more important to lowering scores, intended line or speed control? Great question. I, again, am not an expert, but my understanding from reading books like, John Sherman's Four Foundations, which is one that I found super helpful and recommend all the time, is there are two kinds of putts. There are putts inside of 8 feet, 8 feet to 0 feet, that you have a reasonable chance of trying to make, right? The break even on the PGA Tour, 50-50 is 8 feet. And then everything else, so any putt, call it outside of 10 feet or 8 feet, is all about speed control. Your only goal is to 2-putt. Obviously, you're going to occasionally make a 20-footer. So to answer your question, I think for that first bucket of putts, starting the ball on line is, I think, about 90% of whether or not it will go in. The rest being, speed control and green reading. And conversely, on that second bucket of putts, the outside of 8 feet, call the ones that you're just trying to 2-putt, all you're really focused on is how can I get the ball as close to the hole, which generally means you're focused on speed. So that was kind of a long answer to your question about, where is it more important, but I think both those things are important. It just depends on which type of putt you're hitting. A good rule of thumb that I remember from Decade and doing some studying on Decade is, about 10% of your initial distance is your target, right? So if you have a 30-footer, you're trying to putt it into a 3-foot circle. If you have a 40-footer, a 4-foot circle would be considered successful. Obviously, your goal being, you just want to make that second putt as easy as possible. 3-putt avoidance is the only objective, again, when you're outside of that, call it 10-foot range. Oh, just a grazing miss outside of the cup there. I also feel obliged to tell you, Miggy Smalls, that I think we do know pretty conclusively, like Mark Brody's, strokes gain analysis and all of that work suggests that if you want to actually lower your scores, again, I'm trying to lower my scores from 75 to 72, from a 0 to a +2 handicap. But if you're a 20 trying to become a 10 handicap, you're much better served spending your time on driver and some amount of consistency with your irons. Getting the ball on the green, avoiding penalty shots. Double bogey avoidance is much more impactful to scores, or much more correlated than birdies. So hitting it closer, making more birdies isn't going to help you lower your scores. It's, not making 3 triples every time you go out. I spend a lot of time now on my putting because, number one, it's the winter, so I can't be outside at the range. So trying to do what I can inside. But also it's a lagging part of my game, right? You know, I underperform in putting relative to what tour do I play on. I've never played on any tour. I personally feel I'm better at 10 to 15 foot putts than I'm at 3 to 8 foot, where I rarely get within a 10-foot circle of the pin. Practice long putts more often. Is that something you see often? Yeah, so like I said, I think that 3 to 8 foot range is where you can, you know, really outperform in a strokes gain sense if you make, you know, your more than your fair share of those putts. But for everything else, from those 10 to 30 footers, you really just want to work on your speed control. You know, how can I think about it the same as if, like, if you have a 150-yard shot, you might say, great, I know I can hit my 8-iron, it's going to go roughly 150. You should have the same sort of, like, okay, I'm 32 feet from the hole, but I know that I have, because I spent 10 minutes on the putting green before, I have a putt, you know, a certain length of stroke, or, you know, a shot, right, with my putter that goes 30 feet, call it. Like, one of my favorite things to do when I get to the golf course, and I'm warming up, is walk off, you know, call it 10 steps or 30 feet on the putting green, put down a couple tees, and grab, you know, 3 or 4 golf balls, and just see, you know, how, excuse me, how dialed in can I get to that 30-foot range. I think it's a great idea to, you know, walk off your putts on the green. You know, you got to walk there to take the flagstick out anyway. You might as well count how many steps it is, and you know, great, if it was 8 steps, that's, you know, call it 24 feet. I might not have a 24 feet exactly dialed in, but I know it's, you know, more than 20 and less than 30. And you try and focus on your depth perception, and you're getting calibrated in terms of speed. Do occasionally make them. Yeah, again, if you're focused on good speed, you're gonna make, you know, the odd putt outside of that range. But strategically, that shouldn't be your objective, right? You shouldn't be, you know, standing over a 30-footer saying, I gotta make sure I get this to the hole, because then if you hit it 5 feet by and then miss the next one, you've really underperformed, you know, by trying to make that birdie and then making a bogey where you could have just, you know, lagged up there and tapped in for a 2-putt. Strategically, outside of 10 feet, your goal is always just a 2-putt. So this practice that I'm doing now, you would say, is much more relevant for that 3 to 8 foot range, where, you know, start line is so relevant to, you know, making it or not. Never really thought of it that way. Yeah, I mean, I have been a scratch golfer for, oops. Yeah, I'm learning all of this strategy stuff, like, in real time, you know, trying to get better at golf still. You know, I've reached the lowest handicap I think I've ever had is like plus 1.5. And that was just by, you know, playing other sports growing up and having good hand-eye coordination. But I had no idea, like, strategically how to think my way around a golf course. And, you know, I just, until like 3 years ago, my thought process was, oh, there's the hole, like, just hit it as close to the hole as possible. You know, and get really good at doing that, as opposed to, you know, having a more strategic course management approach, and trying to educate myself about, like, how can I score better with the, you know, physical limitations and practice time that I do have. I talked about it on the stream before, but definitely, I think having this channel and having more incentive to practice has certainly helped in the physical limitation aspect. Like, you know, I've been pretty committed to stretching and doing yoga every day. That's definitely helped. That was a nice roll there. That one felt pretty good. And that's the best part about golf, right? Is you can always try to find something to get better at. Yeah, I know what you mean. You're just out there like, oh, where, the holes go down there somewhere. Like, let's just hit it, try and get as close. Oh, there's a tiny gap in the trees. Try and hit it through there. And only very recently have I kind of recommitted to, finding ways to get better. And I found that strategy and kind of course management was one of the areas I found I could work on my game the most. So I'm excited to see how it works out this summer, when playing tournaments and trying to qualify for some events. Stroke's starting to feel a little better there. It is good practice, I think, just feeling some amount of distraction, like I'm still trying to talk through, whatever we're chatting about in the chat, or, while also trying to stay committed to my process and, make good strokes. This feels like decent practice for, putting the routine to the test anyway. The goal being to have all of this part about hitting the putt feel as automatic as possible, right? I've picked my target, I've read the putt, I know how hard I want to hit it, and I step in and I don't have to worry about the mechanics of it, right? I take my stance, I take my grip, I look at the target, I hover the putter, and I make the stroke. And I want that process to be, as automatic as possible, right? So it happens without me even needing to think about it. I'm still going to miss a ton of putts. I mean, there's variables you can't control. We're playing on an outdoor, living surface. But what I can control is, the preparation. I'm putting in the reps. I'm training myself. I'm building my skills. And I have a routine and a process, and I can, judge myself on how committed to that process I am. And that sort of, grading system I think will be beneficial for me, as opposed to, well, did I make the putt or not? Well, who cares if you made the putt? Were you committed to what you were doing? Did you have a good process? Was your target selection good? So trying to be more process oriented, I think, will be good for my game. Over in the US, do most courses ban caddying? They do in the UK. I feel like I could learn so much from having a low to scratch handicap for caddying. I appreciate you saying that. Caddies are not banned. I've certainly played my fair share of rounds with caddies. But they're not typical, usually you find them at like higher end country clubs or, resorts where people are more inclined to spend money and take a caddy. But your run-of-the-mill public golf course in the US is not going to have caddies. And I don't know what they would do if you showed up with somebody and was like, this is my caddy for the day, like if your buddy just wanted to walk with you. I don't know, I've never tried it. It might be a fun idea for a video. Just rock up to a public golf course at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, with like a tour bag. Oh, I could bring this guy. I got this tour bag. And, hire somebody to caddy for me for the day. And just be super into reading the putts and laying on the green. Like those commercials where Ricky Fowler was dressed up in like the fake beard and was caddying for random people, and he's like, let me hit one. And then, strikes at 320 down the middle. They're like, wow, you're really good at golf. And he takes off the beard and he's like, yes, I am Ricky Fowler, in fact. Notable, good at golf guy. Nice. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get back to 27 in a row. That was quite the streak to start the stream. Nice. No club sharing, no caddying, no scramble or two ball. Well, that seems a bit harsh. Although I mean, most of those things are probably just for pace of play. The no caddying sticks out to me on that list of things of like, well, that doesn't necessarily feel like it belongs with the others. The club one I go back and forth on because, like, if my wife wanted to come golf with me and they would tell me, like, she literally cannot go with you, unless she has her own set of clubs, that feels a little infantilizing. Like, I know what I'm doing out there, we keep up pace of play, it should be fine. But at the same time, if you have to have a rule, then it should probably be, towards having the course work functionally for everybody else. You can't have two new players, on opposite sides of the fairway being like, oh, I need my 7-iron. That is how you end up with 6-hour rounds at public golf courses, and why people, don't have good experiences with golf sometimes. Oh, we're missing on the other side now. That's interesting. We've overdone the correction. So yeah, that's my take on the caddying, raggers. No scramble or two ball. That seems silly to me because scramble should be faster. Like, if you have two duffers and instead of playing their own ball and trying to hole it out, right? One of my biggest things is people aren't slow at golf. It's just that golf is hard and they don't play the right tees. So it just takes longer to hit the ball 7 or 8 or 9 times on a hole than hitting it 3 or 4 or 5 times. It's just going to take longer. That's not to excuse people who are slow, but I personally think that, the biggest problem about slow play is just play the right tees, right? And if you're going to hit it 8 times on a hole, just pick up at a certain point, right? Like, holing out your next ball, for a 9 versus a 10 when you got to, count the drops, like, go out and have fun, and be done at a certain point. Then the big group started mouthing off. Yeah, I mean, so it is one of the toughest parts. I had a similar experience a couple years ago. I was playing, with my brothers, and we were on, the 9th hole is a par 5, and there was a group on the tee. My ball was in the fairway, and I think I had like 210 to the hole on a par 5, so obviously I have to wait, right, if I'm going to be hitting a 5-iron into the hole. If it was a par 4, who would care? Regardless, like, you just wait for the green to clear. And next thing we know, a ball from the tee comes flying by us because the guys apparently behind us had, their patience had run out and they thought we were the problem holding up, their morning, and decided to hit into us, which we let go until they get up by the green and then, wanted to physically confront us about, how slow we were. We said, great, go ahead of us. They then, I'm like 13 or 14, drove over to be like, oh, sorry, we didn't know there were people in front of you. And I'm like, great, I'm glad you apologized, but also there's never an excuse. Like, it's never okay to hit a ball that could hit someone. Like, you know, that could really hurt somebody. And you're responsible for where your ball ends up. So, yeah, that's my, you know, the first story that comes to mind. And it just, you know, slow play causes that friction, right? You know, you don't have friction with other golfers in really any other scenario that I can think of, right? Other than, again, another one. I was on a trip recently, and we were on a drivable par 4, and these guys behind us had a caddy from their resort. Like, it was completely unacceptable for them to think about hitting a ball onto a green that we were standing on, which they did. My best piece of advice, by the way, if that does happen, if someone hits a ball, you know, that like is very close to you or lands on a green that you're standing on, don't hit it back at them. You don't need to like be completely obnoxious, but just grab a tee, stick your tee in the ground, and just leave the ball kind of teed up. So, you know, they'll get the message that what they did wasn't okay, and, you know, the ball might not be there the next time, but there shouldn't be a next time, right? Like, you should just never hit balls to where people can be hit by them. Yeah, it's a huge problem in golf. You know, slow play is just, it causes friction, you know, while you're experiencing it. It makes people not want to play again, right? Like, if you've only been playing for 6 months and you go play around, and every time you play it takes 6 hours, like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. Like, this just is not fun. There's rarely any marshals on the course, so I have to walk from one end of the course to the other just for one issue. Yeah, it's really tough. I wish they were stricter about, you know, what tees they allow people to play. Like, if you're a 27 handicap, that's totally fine. So, like, be a beginner, and like everyone's journey in life and in golf is different, and skills and interests. But don't play from 7,000 yards, and you need somebody there to say, hey, like, unless you can show me that you're a, you know, 4.9 handicap or lower, you have to move up to the front tees. Like, that would be a better solution in my mind, and it would sort of just solve all the issues without having to police individual behavior, right? Because that's where I think people get so bent out of shape, is they're, you know, like, oh, I'm not the problem. You know, it could never be me. It could never, ever be, you know, my fault. So unless we just accept that that's how people are going to act, I don't think it's going to get better, because, you know, just a marshal coming around, like, you know, if you paid $200 or, you know, whatever to go play, and you want to hit your ball 7 times, you're going to feel entitled to do that. So I think encouraging people to play from tees where that's less likely to happen, to me, feels like a better solution, you know, while also accepting kind of the realities that we live in. Plus, people would play better. Like, nobody asks you, like, if you tell your buddy, like, oh, I shot, you know, I played great today, I shot 87, or, you know, whatever is an important score for you, they're not going to say, oh, well, was it from, you know, the 6,800 yard tees or the 6,200 yard tees? No, they're like, oh man, that's awesome, I'm excited for you. And it would just be more fun to playing quicker than some people have been playing 20 years. I understand people like to plan their shots, but when it really causes a traffic jam, that's when I get wound up and end up playing worse. Yeah, I think everything you're describing, Raggers, is pretty, you know, normal, and most golfers have, like I said, you know, in the span of 30 seconds off the top of my head, I had 2, you know, immediate stories of like, oh, this is when it got to a 10 out of 10, you know, like balls are being hit near people sort of thing. So like, it does happen. Yeah, I like I said, I think it is one of the biggest problems that golf has and you know, continues to fail at addressing, right? Like, I've been playing golf for 20 years now, probably pretty, you know, regularly, and as far as I can remember, you know, from the time I was just learning how to play to, you know, other than my experience playing at a private club, slow play is just, it's pervasive, and, you know, I think we need to be more honest about addressing it. I'm gonna get off my soapbox for 1 second and get something to drink before I lose my voice. What would we do without sweet H2O? My girl's in the next room. Oh man, I don't know if I'm setting up with the face closed potentially. There we go, back on track. I like the repetitive nature of this drill station also. The front 9 is all par 3s, and back 9 consists of par 3s, 4s, and 5s. My best is 89 after 6 months. I think that's great, yeah. I mean, again, par is relative, right? It's just a number on a scorecard, and strokes gained tells us, you know, that's more true than ever. I think, yeah, already to be shooting under 100 is great. Man, I'm just struggling a little bit tonight with the... My best advice for people who are just starting is really, you know, learn to feel what, like, a really, you know, great impact position feels like, and just do a lot of stuff at low speed. Like, hit an 8-iron and try to hit it 100 yards, not 165 yards. Try to hit it 100 yards, and just really, you know, learn how to get into the proper positions where you're striking the ball, you know, with the shaft leaning forward. You know, I think so many people will be better served by just learning how to swing from like hip to hip for the first 6 months you play. Expensive game. Yes, it sure is. I think that's also a thing that, you know, holds people back from having access to golf. But yeah, just learn that impact position. You know, there's great drills out there for, you know, take your stance and just preset impact, right? So this is, you know, this is where I want to end up, you know, preset this position, and then I make my backswing and try and get back there. So I think, yeah, just you know, those fundamentals of, you know, how do I strike the ball properly with an iron, and then also, you know, how do I start to build speed and learn how to hit a driver. I think, you know, John and Scott and Mark, all these, you know, strokes gained authors and experts pretty much universally agree that distance or speed is, you know, most directly correlated to handicap. Like, you just have to be able to hit it far at a certain point. You know, again, using laws of averages and things like that, but so speed with a driver and having some confidence, and then just learning about impact. The rest of it is, you know, strategy and, you know, learning how to hit putts and make putts eventually. But if you can learn how to hit a driver relatively far and keep it in play, which doesn't even mean in the fairway, by the way. Like, you've succeeded on a tee shot if you advance the ball as far as possible and you keep it in play, which means you have a reasonable shot at the green. There he is. What's up, Knucklehead? Knucklehead is back in the chat. Well, all those guys who shot 63 and are 4 back, hard to have anybody but Jake Knapp off of 59. I saw he had a 20-footer for 58 at 18 after he hit like 7-iron into that par 5. And lipped out like a 15-footer for birdie on 17. So I think one of my best drills that I'm going to put in the bank for this season, or right before tournaments, that sort of thing, is just go on YouTube and watch Jake Knapp swing for 30 to 60 minutes consecutively. Just the tempo and the rhythm. Yeah, I mean, how do you pick against the guy who just shot 59? So I guess that would be my pick headed into Friday. But also, as we know, hard to follow up a good round, a super low special round with another good one. So I'd expect he'd shoot something like 68 or 70 tomorrow and still be, kind of comfortably in there. But if he goes out and shoots like another 63 or 4, it's going to be a wrap. He can just kind of cruise through the weekend. I was a little surprised. I've only watched a couple hours of the broadcast, but the setup seemed pretty benign. I know the wind was down, but it seemed like the scores were quite low for a PGA National tournament.
I'll be back with some friends. No, I'll be back with some friends,
It's nap time. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's nap time. He also, I saw something recently with, I don't know if it was Golf Digest or, there's something about him, just hanging out, talking about his day-to-day and practicing, and he just seems like the best hang, Jake Knapp. He's just like, a normal dude, doesn't care about having a nice, house or anything fancy, like doesn't need to spend a bunch of money, He's just like, oh, I happen to be sick at golf, and I'm like any other, 22-year-old bro. I don't know how old he is, but I'm sure he's in his early 20s. Try and get this oriented a little better here. A little more calibrated to the left side. I'm hoping Ricky gets a top 10. Yeah, it seems like he's been playing a lot better. I could be mistaken, but I thought he went back to working with Butch Harmon on his swing, which seems to have helped a bunch. We were talking about Ricky earlier, talking about those old commercials he did where he pretended to be a caddy for like regular people. Me and Raggers were talking about his courses don't allow caddying, and how it might be fun to do a YouTube video, show up with like a full tour setup with a caddy, and show up at your local muni at 9 a.m. These dogs are losing their mind, huh? What's the matter? Yeah, you're okay. Alright, I think we're going to wrap up the stream here pretty soon. There There we go. We've got everything calibrated nicely there. Yeah, I think Ricky's gonna have a big year. I would love to see him play well. You know, he's been so close to getting a big tournament win. Just got to keep giving yourself shots. What year was it? Like 2015 or 16 when he finished second in every major, but didn't win one. Oh no. Just barely missed it. Alright, I don't want to end on a miss, but I'm going to wrap up the stream here in a minute. I'm super appreciative everybody who decided to stay and hang out and chat for a bit. There we go. There we go. Spieth needs a win as well. Yeah. He's still coming off that wrist injury, so I think it'll just take some time to get his game back feeling comfy. But that's going to do it for the stream today, guys. Thanks for checking it out. Come back soon. We'll do this again.